What's going on, everybody? It's Trace over Absolute. So I get a lot of questions on, Trace, how do I price a job out? Well, no need to fear, Trace is here. I'm going to show you guys how to properly estimate a job. There's a lot of different companies that price jobs a little bit differently. Some price by the square foot, some price based off of time and material. Me personally, I like to price jobs based off of time and material. And there's a few reasons why I do that. One being I'm able to see exactly how much material I need for each job where I don't miss. And then two, I'm able to calculate the actual total man hours per line item. So for example, we're doing a gravel install, we're doing grass install, we're doing pavers, and we're also doing plants. So I know exactly how much labor or how many man hours it takes to do each individual job on this scope of work. So when you're pricing it based off of square footage, you can definitely figure out your man hours, but I feel like it's a little bit of a lazy way of doing it. And a couple years ago, I used to do it based off of the square footage, and I lost my ass. I lost so much money that I never wanted to do it again. So that's whenever I started doing it by time and material. Another thing it helps with is, you can see I have a team of guys here. We have a job description of the work being performed, and they're able to see exactly how much material is used on the job. So they know how much DG they need, they know how much grass is needed, they know how much mortar is needed, and how much bank sand they need for their pavers. So those are just little things, as well as customers know exactly what they're getting for that job. So that's enough talking. I'm gonna show you what you need in order to price a job out. So this is a measure wheel. I would highly recommend this. And another thing you're gonna need is a tape measure. So these are really the two critical things you need to price a job out. You can use a pen and a piece of paper, but guys, it's 2025 and we have our phones. So what I do, we have a software system that we use. It's called Jobber. And so for example, this is a customer that wants an estimate, okay? I'm gonna go to the notes, and this is where I'm gonna write all my notes down. If you're not willing to invest into a software system, you have so many options. You could use notes on an iPhone or notes on whatever device you have. First things first is we need to know the overall scope of the work. In this particular case, this customer wants grass in this section. If you see, there's a line from the corner of the building straight across to the fence. So from that line to where we're standing is gonna be grass, and from the other side of that line is gonna be gravel. So what we need to do is we need to measure from this point to that point, and to get your square footage, you need to measure length times width. That's gonna give you your overall square footage. So I'm gonna take quick measurements. Once we finish here and get all of our measurements, we're gonna go to the office and I'm gonna show you what's next on the whiteboard. I'm gonna zero it out, and I'm gonna measure from here, make sure it's zeroed out, and I'm gonna go all the way down to this line. And you can see we're at 46 feet, okay? 46 feet by So we're at 46 by 39 feet. So what I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna go to notes. I'm gonna put 46 by 39. And this section is grass. So this is grass. Okay, next is we need to figure out the square footage of the gravel, okay? So gravel, we're gonna zero it out. All right, so 33 by 40. And then I'm gonna put gravel, okay? And I'm gonna save. So I'm also gonna do this for the pavers, but I'm gonna use a tape measure. I'm not gonna get in their way, but you get the idea. So I'm gonna take length times width and I'm gonna measure out. I already have that dimension. and I can show you once we get to the office. So that's pretty much it for this scope of work. There's a couple other things that we're gonna do on this job, but you get the overall idea. I'm gonna just add this so you can get a little bit better understanding on plantings or creating a little flower bed. We're not gonna do this in this overall scope, but this is just an example. So if you come this way, say we're gonna do a landscape bed in this section here. We're just gonna do a little L shape just to cover up this, this pool equipment, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just create a little line, okay? And we're just gonna do a little L-shaped bed here. And we're gonna fill it up with little plantings so you can block off the pool equipment from the street, okay? I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna get my overall dimension of the bed. So I have my length of the bed is right under 12 feet, okay? And then I'm gonna get my width of the bed. So we're at 3 feet. So we're at 11 by 3 foot, okay? I'm also gonna put that dimension, 11 L, 11 feet long by 3 foot wide, okay? And that is my bed. And I'm gonna put a little note in here. This is pool equipment bed. So I know that the customer wants privacy because they don't want to see the pool equipment from the street. So I'm thinking of some sort of shrubbery to block this. So just off the rip, this is just a small bed. I could just easily say we're gonna do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ligustrums, okay? But once we get back to the office, I'll show you how I typically do this. So now that we have our dimensions, let's start breaking down numbers. Let's roll. Okay guys, so we're back in the office. We're gonna do a little whiteboard work and I'm gonna show you how I price jobs out. So when we were at this job site, we got a couple dimensions of the grass. So our first dimension was 46 by 39. 46 by 39, and this is grass. Okay, these are the notes that we took on the property walk. And then the gravel was 33 by 40. 33 by 40, and this is gravel. Okay, so this is, we're really at the first steps here, but we know that there's a lot of things on the internet where you can convert square footage to cubic yards. So all of our suppliers, they sell bulk material by the cubic yard. And so 1 cubic yard covers roughly 100 square feet. This is important to have. 1 pallet of grass covers about 400 square feet. Okay, so when you have these dimensions, you want to have your square footage. So for the grass, we're at 1794. And then for our gravel, we're right around 1320. So this is your square foot, okay? All right, so what do these numbers mean and what do I do with these numbers? Well, to calculate how many yards you need to take this number and you need to divide it by 100. That's gonna let you know how many yards you need for this job. And so whenever I do an estimate, anytime I do an estimate, I always try to create an estimate to be very clean, and I'll show you an example here shortly. I'm gonna just write DG, decomposed granite, here. I'm gonna write soil, so we use enriched soil for our grass. We're gonna need that for prepping the grass. You wanna set the grass up for success. So I'm gonna just put soil here. And then the next one, I'm gonna put grass. We use fertilizers for our grass anytime we put it down. I like using Microlife. We also have those little plants in front of the pool equipment. So I'm gonna just put plants here for now. We also need edging to separate the gravel from as well as the bed from the grass. So we're gonna put edging. We're gonna put soil, bed soil. And then lastly would be, well, one of the last things would be labor, delivery fee, and dump fee. All right. So in order to find this first line item, we need to convert this square foot to yards. So all we're gonna do is we're gonna take 1320 and we're gonna divide it by 100. It's gonna give you roughly 13.2 yards. Me personally, I always round up to the nearest whole number because it's better to have a little extra than not enough. Okay, so for this job, we're gonna need roughly 14 yards of decomposed granite. For the grass, we're gonna use this same calculation, and I can spread the grass a little bit more than I can the gravel. So I'm gonna change that 100 to roughly 150-ish. So we're gonna take 1794 and we're gonna divide it by 150. And so we're around 12 yards of soil, okay? So 12 yards of soil. As far as the grass, remember we had one pallet covers 450 square feet. So we're just gonna divide 1794 and we're gonna divide it by 450. We're right around 4 pallets of grass, okay? So 4 pallets of grass. Microlife, we need about 1 bag of Microlife. So I'm gonna just put 1. Plants, we'll come back to the plants, but it's the same concept. Or I think we were talking about privets. Those are gonna be privacy plants that can shield the pool equipment from the street. We'll just say privets for now. Okay, edging. So you need edging. It was 40 feet from the structure to the fence. So there's a 10-foot section and then there's also 20-foot sections. Just depends on what you want to use. We use 10-footers on a lot of our projects. So we need 4 pieces of edging to separate the gravel and the grass, and then we also need edging for that bed in front of the pool equipment. So if you remember, it was 6 feet plus 11. We need 2 extra pieces, so we need 6 pieces. Okay, for that little bed, we need roughly half a yard or maybe a few bags of soil to set the plants up for success. Okay, next up is labor. So in order to calculate all of this, I use a spreadsheet. It's really just a help sheet that helps you calculate how many man hours per material that you have on this estimate. So if you pan over to the computer, I'll show you this spreadsheet, and it really helps me by estimating jobs. But ultimately, I'm not gonna dive too deep into this because everybody's man hour is different and everybody's overhead is different. So just to give you an idea, we charge $130 per hour to do a job. So some jobs are anywhere from 30 man hours to 400 man hours. But this is what we need to charge to cover our overhead and make a profit. So I'll make another video that explains the man hours. Next up is delivery fees. You definitely need to charge for delivery fees, and if you're not, you're losing money. You have maintenance costs on your vehicles, fuel costs, the time it takes your employees to drive from the shop to the job. That is all eaten up into your labor burden. So definitely charge it for a delivery fee. So how we calculate delivery fees is I really look at the entire scope of the work, and I know that I can only fit 2 pallets of grass in our trailer. So I'm gonna have grass delivered from our supplier. They can deliver all of these pallets on 1 truckload. And then same with the soil, the gravel, and then the miscellaneous items. So I'm gonna charge 4 delivery fees for this job, okay? It sounds ridiculous, but it, one, saves the company time and ultimately money. So the next up is how many dump fees. We need to figure out, is this a job where we need to put a dumpster on site, or is this a job where we could just load up our dump trailer and haul off as needed? In this case, the site was pretty well prepped. There's a little bit of debris on site, but wasn't too crazy. This particular job, I'm gonna charge 2 dump fees. One dump fee for just a little bit of demo work, and then the last would be a final dump clean. So as you do more and more projects, you'll understand you can also use a little quote help sheet like I'm about to show you, and you can have a square footage demo area, and you can decide if a dump trailer would be wise or having an on-site dumpster. Okay, so next up, I'm going to show you on this spreadsheet how I calculate all this material and what it really takes to execute something like this. This is the quote help sheet that I created over the past couple years. And this is really based off of my numbers and how long it takes me to do and my team certain tasks through each project. So soil, you could put 1794 square feet, and then it'll auto calculate how many yards you need for that job. So we're gonna round up to 12, and we're just gonna go here below, and we're gonna put 12. It takes us 1 hour per yard of soil to do the install. Grass, we had 1794. It's gonna be 3.9, but we're gonna round up to 4. So it takes us roughly 3 hours per pallet of grass. Some people say it takes you 3 hours. Well, some jobs take us an hour per pallet, but an average, it typically will take us around 3 hours. So that's why I'm using these numbers. It's better to be safe than sorry. Okay, the next one is gravel. So gravel was 1320. We need about 11 yards of gravel. So we're gonna go to this line item. We're gonna put 11. Okay, edging, we need 6 pieces. It will spit off a little number. So this is 35 hours that it's gonna take to do the actual work. But you also have to factor in demo. So I created a little line item below that shows, square footage and how much dirt that you might have to till, or how much dirt you might have to remove from the property. In this case, the property was already pretty prepped, but we do need to do a little bit of tilling to break up all the hard and compact soil. So we're gonna put 1794 in here. So it's gonna take us around 2 hours to till the entire section of that. And then we also need to think about any other sections that need demo work. In this case, I can't really think of any other sections. The plants, we know on site we talked about adding, was it 5 or 6 plants? It was about 6 plants. Okay, so 6 plants. It takes us roughly 0.083. That's a calculation. I want to say it's like 5 minutes a plant at 3 gallon. And then our bigger gallon sizes are roughly an hour. So all in all, we're gonna just round this up to 36, and then we'll round this up to 2. So all in all, we're right around 38 hours, man hours, to complete this job. So if we know how long the job is gonna take, we can go ahead and multiply the 130 an hour times 38. That's gonna be our labor line item. Spreadsheet that I just showed you, that's a labor calculator. Like, it's gonna calculate how many man hours it's gonna take to install each one of these products, okay? So we know that 38 hours is our total man hours for this job. Next thing that we need to do is we need to calculate the cost of the material for each of these, okay? It's gonna be a little bit easier for me because I have everything in a software where I can just add the quantities and then be done. But for someone just starting out where they don't have the software, a good old pen and a piece of paper will do the trick. So for our local supplier, they have a list of products from soils, mulches, grasses, stone products, etc. that they give you the prices, and this is all by wholesale. So what you need to do is you need to find how much it costs, and you need to add your tax to get your overall total, okay? Once you have your total, most people will just multiply it by 2. That will be a 50% gross profit margin. Depending on your goals and how much money that you want to make, that is really up to you. I see times it by 2, I see you multiply gross profit by 65%, 70%. That's up to you on how much you want to make. But ultimately, once you have your cost plus your tax, you get your total, you need to add your profit margin. And your profit margin is whatever you want to make. That's solely based on your business and what you want to make as a business. Okay, so you need to do this for each line item, and then you're going to get your total price at the bottom. So we'll pan back over to the software and I'll show you what a full estimate looks like. Okay, so now that we're at estimate software, I went ahead and auto-populated everything for you. This is how we send estimates. So you can see the type of material that we're using, the quantity, this is the yards, and this is what we're charging to the customer. If you click on this, you'll see a gross profit margin. This is what it costs plus the tax. You add your markup, and this is what is charged to the customer. Okay, this is for each and every single one of our line items and how we estimate a project. You have your labor, and then inside the labor, you have a description of what you're doing. You have your delivery fees and your dump fees, and then you have your profit margin at the bottom. This is a gross estimated margin. We personally like to add deposits, and we always add a 50% deposit. We're gonna save it, and then we're going to send it to the customer, and this is ultimately what the customer is going to get. They're going to receive a PDF version of the estimate, and this is going to be very clean, straightforward. The customer is able to read it, our team members are able to read it, and it ultimately tells a story on each particular item that the crew needs to execute this job. Okay, so obviously you can see here gravel, we have quantity of 14 and so on and so on. And the total job is $10,620. Okay, so this is how we estimate projects. It can go from small projects like this all the way up to a massive project where there's thousands of plants and different materials. But this helps me estimate jobs and not lose money. It also shows the crews the overall scope of the work. It also shows what materials they need for that particular job. It also lets the customer know where their money is being spent. And ultimately, it helps us from not losing money. We're in the business of making money, not losing it. And when you price by the square foot, sometimes it can, especially if you don't know your numbers, it can be a little bit scary for sure. So this is how we estimate jobs. I hope this helps. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know how you estimate jobs.